welcome to Entrepreneur State of Mind. My name is Krista Smolda, and I am here with entrepreneur Dr. Colleen Georges. She's the owner of Rescript Your Story, LLC. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much,
And you may have seen her before because she's becoming a regular here. We love the content that she provides and her as a human being. So I've gotten to know you for 15 minutes on the phone, but I love you. I love you already.
I love you too.
And I love the name Rescript Your Story because I don't know if we're connected on Facebook, but I have a hashtag Reset Your Life.
Yes.
So it's very similar,
Yes.
right? Because you and I both did that.
Yes, very much.
So, and you work with people that are trying to do that.
Yeah.
So tell us how you became a business owner and an entrepreneur, because you didn't always do that.
No, I think life is fascinating because like many people, I had a plan and things went in a different direction. I'm lucky that I made the choice for them to go in a different direction. Yeah. But I originally, I studied counseling psychology in graduate school. At that time, my plan was to be a family therapist. But I fell in love with working with college students. I started having internships with working with students at Career Services and Learning Center. Started talking to the supervisors I had, how did you get here? Yeah. And I started to follow that path, and that's where I ultimately decided to go. When I, kind of had my graduate school crisis, it was, I think I want to work with college students, and that's the path I was going on. And so I was working in higher education after I finished. I was the director of 2 programs for low-income first-generation students and doing work I absolutely loved. Okay. Loved my students, loved the work I did, loved the mission of what I was doing. I was very blessed. And my plan was, I keep sort of working my way up the higher ed ladder, and maybe one day I'll be like a vice president in higher ed at a college. Yeah. And so on that path, I had this little hobby on the side, writing resumes. And it's kind of funny because, I know a lot of people hate writing the resume. For me, it was like knitting or sewing or skiing, or I loved it. It was my little hobby. And for many,
did you do it for money? Or you just did it for fun?
No, it was fun.
Help people.
Yeah, it would be, it started out family and friends, then it got to the point where it became very far removed. It was like friends of friends of friends. And someone said to me, why don't you start a business? And initially I thought, a resume writing business? Is that a thing people do? I started looking it up and found there was a resume writing certification, there were career coaching certifications, there was people who were doing this, there was companies that wrote, I had no idea.
I didn't know.
So I started freelancing just as a little part-time gig for a resume writing company.
Okay, now how do you start freelancing? So it was with a company?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, a bigger resume writing company.
Yeah.
And then they just outsource jobs to you.
Basically, yeah. And I liked it, but the thing that was interesting was I liked it, but you had limited creativity, and I didn't like the fact that I was held to their templates and their style and their process. And so I basically started to pursue resume writing certification, career coaching certification, and I, in 2008 decided to start a business. And it began with just, I think the thing that's so crazy was it was just supposed to be a part-time thing on the side, a little extra money, doing something I love, and then it evolved.
Now, you say, I started a business. I don't think a lot of people know, how do you start a business? Is it easy as going to Vistaprint and ordering 500 business cards and you have a business? What were some of the things you had to do to make it a business?
At that time I was a sole proprietor, so it's not quite as difficult. No. I did eventually LLC. It took me forever, but I did eventually LLC. But at the time, I read a lot of books on how do you start a small business, a sole proprietorship. And so, I think one of the things was I had to go to my You got it.
Yeah.
It was just simple, right? You know, did you want to use a different name? And at the time I called myself Colleen's Career Creations. And things were different at the time. They've gotten much more detailed over the years in terms of New Jersey, what you need to do. But yeah, as a sole proprietor, it was simple in that regard. But it was just, it was like you need a website, you need to tell people what you're doing, obviously, business cards and so I think that one of the biggest thing was with a website, there's a gazillion people doing these things. So how are people going to find you? So I think of everything I read a ridiculous amount of books and articles on search engine optimization.
Okay.
That was a big thing.
You didn't hire a company to do that for you. You probably couldn't afford it at the time.
No.
Or did you?
No, I did it myself. I was trying to do everything with as low overhead as because you never know what's going to happen, right? I think that's the scary thing when you start a business.
Right.
Is it going to be successful? Is it not? I didn't want to put out a lot of money until I had a sense of how things were going. So, one of the ironic things was having been a person who never had to market a business. I marketed people, but I never marketed a business. I learned that I actually love working on websites. And that's why I still do it myself, because I love it. But yeah, I had a blast kind of reading these books and then watching when I would do the things that it suggested, watching, like my search terms, watching it go. I think I started on like page 10 of Google search, and then I got to 3, and then I got to 2, and then I got to 1, and I got to be at the top of 1, and it was like, wow. I figured that out.
That's awesome. Yeah, to see it actually working.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you have this sole proprietorship of resume writing, and you're getting certified, and you're still working full time?
Yeah, working full time. So
then what happens?
Yeah, so this was summer of 2008. The end of summer 2008 was when it started, and a couple things start to happen. One, I start to like this just a little bit more than my job. Just a little, though. It was still pretty balanced. I really did still love what I was doing, but I never knew how much, as an entrepreneur, you know this, you never know how much you're going to like the freedom of making all the decisions. Yeah. And I was blessed to have a supervisor who allowed me to do that, so it wasn't like I wasn't getting that at work, but it was just more of that. And the creativity to decide who I worked with and when did I do that, and how did I go about marketing myself, and what services would I provide, and would that change, and getting to have the ability to make all those decisions, I really enjoyed it. So then that was 2008, and I get pregnant just right after I start this business. And in April of 2009, I had my son, and this is where everything begins to change.
So emotional roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
Explain what was so that was the defining moment that said, okay, something needs to change. What steps did you take to ultimately get out of the other job? Yeah.
I think what I realized was, one, I had 3 months. I, saved my vacation days, right?
Yeah.
My sick days. I had 3 months home with him. And, I'd worked, I guess, since I was, 18, 19 years old. So it was weird to kind of had this time, but it had time to be introspective.
Right.
And so as I was home with him and it got closer and closer to me going back, there was a plan, right? My son was going to spend half of his time with my parents, half of his time with his grandparents. It was a blessed situation. And we had this plan, but as it got closer and closer, I didn't want to go back. And I was very confused because I had always been extremely career driven, someone who wasn't even sure if I wanted children. I was not prepared to react to having a child the way that I did. And so when I went back to work, I struggled emotionally. I did my job. I had to write a grant that year because we were a federally funded program, so it was challenging to come back. But I did, and I love my students, and they sustained me. But I could no longer, with working full time, and now having a newborn, I didn't have time to write resumes anymore. And I had also been teaching a class a semester, which I loved. I didn't have time for that. And so I gave up 2 things that were really important to me. And I began over time to realize that those things were potentially more desirable to me than what I was doing. And so time passes, things get a little challenging in the workplace. There were some conflicts and challenges going on. And I become honestly resentful.
Yeah.
It's not like it was making me do what I was doing, but I said, you know what, I need to find something more flexible. So I said, why don't I look for a faculty position? Faculty positions are much more flexible.
I'm going to have to take a break.
Yes.
Okay, because he broke me, but I want to hear the end of the story because it's a really good part. So stay tuned. We'll be right back and we'll hear the climax of the story when she actually leaves her job and becomes a full-out entrepreneur. Stay tuned.
RVNTV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVNTV shows monthly. We guarantee a great experience that you'll be sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Shelter dogs aren't broken. They've simply experienced more life. If they were human, we would call them wise. They would be the ones with tales to tell and stories to write, the ones dealt a bad hand who responded with courage. Do not pity a shelter dog. Adopt one.
Welcome back to Entrepreneur State of Mind. I'm Krista Smolda here with Dr. Colleen Georges, and we are about to hear the exciting part about how she was able to leave a career after having her son. And ladies, just let us tell you, if you're graduating college and you're going to go make all that money, if you also have in your plan that you would like to have children, I don't want to say beware, but be forewarned that you might not always want to do that. And so I always encourage side hustle kind of things, because what if you didn't have, that side hustle? I don't know.
It would have changed everything.
Yeah.
And I didn't even immediately think that's what I should do. I applied for a faculty position, for flexibility.
Yeah.
I was a second runner-up and I didn't get it. And I had this sort of, oh no, what am I going to do? And then this light went off and I said, well, what if this side hustle could be the hustle?
Yeah.
And so, and it was 2010. The economy still hadn't completely recovered. So it was sort of crazy to walk away from what was a very good, solid, well-paying position. And I went to my husband. Had no idea. He's an amazing human being and a very supportive person and partner, but I still thought, I'm asking a lot here. And I said, I have this idea. And basically it was, what if I, plotted my way out and made my business full-time, taught a few classes, for additional income, and I would have time with Josh. I'd be able to be home. A lot of the things that I do, resume writing, I did virtually. Career coaching, which I did in the beginning of my business, I did, via phone and Skype. And he didn't even hesitate. He said, it sounds good, let's do it.
That's a good man.
He's the best.
Yeah.
and that was how it started. And I basically spent 6 months from about March to the middle of the summer looking at what inquiries were coming my way. How much would that be, you know?
Yeah.
And once I knew that it looked solid, you know, I knew we were going to take a bit of a hit. You know, I wasn't going to be making initially what I had been making, but for what I'd be able to do and be able to spend time with Josh and be there every single day, it was well worth it.
Right.
And then
So
we did
how
it.
long did it take you to really get that off the ground to say, okay, like this is working?
I think it was, I had the idea in March, and I officially left my full-time position in August. It was August 31st, or is there 30 days in?
There's a 31st. There's a 31st of August.
I never remember.
This year anyway.
You just sing the song to remember that.
Yeah.
Of 2010. And you know, that first year, I think I worked myself harder than I ever had. And that's, you know, again, I think part of it is you're scared. I was scared. I was scared that I had to take every single thing that came my way. I had to, you know, at that time I was writing 4 resumes a week, which may not sound like a lot, but for me, you know, I was spending 10 to 20 hours a week on a resume project. And I was also taking career coaching clients. And of course, I'm home with my son.
Yeah.
So, you know, and you want to have time. He was only a year and a half old when I started. You know, this is prime developmental time.
Yeah.
So it was a lot. And within the first year, you know, it definitely, you know, that salary hit was real. The struggle is real.
Yeah.
And, you know, I made myself sick. I believe it was that year I got viral meningitis. I remember being very sick, and I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning one day to try to get things done because there was so much to do. And my husband and son were sleeping, and I was in the kitchen, and I like collapsed on my kitchen floor. And that was when I began to trail back a little bit and say, one of the first things I had to learn was, you're gonna have to charge a little more and take a little less. And that's hard. That's really hard to do.
Right.
You have to change your mindset about how you see your worth and your value.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'll bet you got what you asked for after you charged more, right?
Yeah.
You should have been doing that the whole time, but
Yeah.
you know, you don't know.
No.
You don't know. So you want to cheapen in the beginning so that people will do business with you.
Exactly.
And so that maybe that's a tip, you know your value, and it's about your mindset. So now, okay, your business has shifted so much over the years because your life shifts and your priorities are different. But what mainly are you doing now with Rescript Your Story LLC? Is that the
That's it.
coaching?
Yeah. So I probably about a year ago stopped writing resumes, in the sense that every once in a blue moon, if someone asked me, I would do it, but I kind of began to remove that from my service list on my website. Every once in a while I do an update for a former client, but I'm even doing a little bit less of that now. So I usually refer to colleagues I've known for years for those purposes. But I let go of the resume writing because the coaching business really started to take off. And I also started to do more life coaching because I was noticing that my career coaching clients were bringing up issues that were outside of the realm of career. And I wanted to be, I'm a counselor by trade, so I wanted to be able to do both. So right now I do life coaching, career coaching. I also do some group coaching, meaning I go into organizations, and if there's like communication and conflict challenges that are going on, I do sessions where we work on how do we sort of break this stuff down, how do we begin to speak to each other differently, shift the dynamic of how things are operating, let go of old hurts, let go of, as again, the stories we're telling ourselves about how I have to be with you, how I have to respond when you do X. And I do a lot of speaking, so trainings and things like that, speaking engagements, keynote stuff, and also writing. I recently wrote a book.
I know we're going to talk about that. So it's interesting because you said when people are talking about the careers, all the stuff about home or life comes into play. if someone had to make a choice, I don't put you on the spot, but if you had to hire like a life coach or a career coach, would you, I would think that if you get your life together, right, then the career is going to fall into place.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I think so. You know, I'll be honest with you. I mean, and I was just speaking yesterday with a new prospective client that I, will be working with very shortly. And one of the things, he wants to do career-related work together. And I said that even though I know that's our focus, that when I sort of do initial assessment, my work in the sort of re-scripting is about self-talk. I have a self-talk assessment that I've developed. I give it to my career coaching clients too. I have a sort of job career satisfaction assessment I developed. I give that to both my life and my career coaching clients. And I have an overall life satisfaction that I give to both. And I explained why. And I said, I know this is our focus, but if there's other things that are going on, it might be things that we want to look at or address. It doesn't need to be our primary focus, but if there's other things happening, it's good for us to be aware of that. So if you decide that that's something you want to work on and talk about, we can, and we know what it is.
Do you find that people that aren't fulfilled in their career are simultaneously often not fulfilled in their life?
Sure. I mean,
in their relationships?
We spend so much time at work, right? I mean, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're working a 9 to 5, they're not 9 to 5s anymore, right? I mean, we're taking work home with us. People are staying late. It's your life. So I think that, when you're unhappy or you're feeling stressed, it obviously trickles into everything you're doing. It may mean that you're having more arguments with the people you love because they're upset that you're at work all the time, or you're feeling on edge and you're, more likely to snap at the people in your life. And also, it leaves us less time to fulfill the other goals we have for ourselves. It means that if you're probably not caring for your health, you're most likely not caring for your physical, emotional well-being, not doing things that you enjoy and love to relax you or have fun. So there's so many different things that we neglect if we're unhappy with work or overworked.
Everyone needs to just quit their jobs and be entrepreneurs and do what they love. I mean, seriously, if I had to think, what's the answer?
Oh my God.
If everyone could just quit their job, they'd be so much happier.
Right.
That's why I do this show, because I want to encourage people that I don't want them to think they're stuck.
Yeah, I think that's amazing that you do that.
You're such a good life coach, probably because you did it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell your own story.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us what this book will provide to us when we read it. And it's so beautiful. It's purple and orange and blue and pretty colors. I love pretty colors. So
Thank you.
The story you're telling yourself in your head.
Yes.
That no one else, you're making it up, right?
Yeah. I think that a lot of times life happens. Some people face a lot of trauma in their lives. Some people more than others. Some people are born into life with less resources than others are. But we all face challenges, and it's very much how we respond to those things. And in some cases, it's things that are small. Sometimes it's the simple things, and we catastrophize or ruminate over little things and make things bigger than they need to be. But there's always a narration that's going on. I think of it as narrating. There's a voice in our heads narrating how we are interacting with people and life all day long. Mm-hmm. And one important thing is to become more aware of the narrator. Because I think it's on autopilot very much. Sometimes we don't even notice it, but we are always responding to what it's telling us. Yes. And that's your story, how you respond.
So is this going to teach me to be aware of the narrator voice in my head, and then how to combat the voice?
Yeah, so it's, again, I call it becoming intentional, right? Yeah. Being intentional in paying attention to what you're saying to yourself. Mm-hmm. And what are your patterns and your themes? Are there common ways you shut yourself down? Are there common negative self-talk patterns that you have that center around? Rescript is an acronym for sort of 8 practices, and it's kind of, seeing what are the ones that are most salient for for an individual, and how do you pay more attention to that to make sure that you catch it faster and that you respond differently. Because a lot of times when we are not intentional about it, we inadvertently feed it with more garbage.
Yeah.
And so it grows. Whatever you feed grows. So if you feed negativity, more negativity comes. We begin to think that we're stuck. And I think that's a big thing. If I had to say, what do clients say to me when they come to me? I feel stuck. Mm-hmm. Biggest phrase that I see in an email or I hear in a phone call. Yep. And so, but we often are a large catalyst of the stuck.
Yeah.
It's the circumstances from the outside and then what we do with them.
Yeah, we have the choice to get unstuck.
Yeah.
And you help people get unstuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
And re-script.
Yes.
Basically. Okay, so believe it or not, our show is coming to an end. I think it was a great show. Tell people how they can connect with you and learn more about your business and you personally.
Sure.
And
So,
there you
so I have a website. It's www.colleengeorges.com, and that's 2 L's and 2 E's. And again, I do life coaching, career coaching. I do organizational trainings and group coaching, things like that. So that's the best place to get in touch with me. There's a contact form on there. And when I work with people, no matter what it is, I always have a 20 to 30 minute free consultation phone call to find out if it's a good fit for you, for me, and so that we can get acquainted, and so that the first session that we have can be laser focused on diving right in, and that we're not spending part of that conversation getting acquainted. So, and that helps to let people know if this is something that they want to invest in, because coaching is an investment.
Yes. And my last question to you: do you have a coach?
I do. Oh, yes. I spoke with my coach this morning before he came here today.
We all need coaches, and I love the fact that you have one,
Yeah.
because we never stop growing, we never stop changing, we never stop needing advice from external sources, and so that's good that you have a coach. I also have a coach as well. Well, it was wonderful to have you and to finally meet you, and thank you so much.
Krista.
And listen, go out and buy a copy of this book.
Yes, please.
Where can we find it?
It is on it's on Barnes and Noble and all different types of websites, but Amazon is where I like people to buy
Amazon. Yeah. If anyone ever heard of Amazon. Okay, that's where she is. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Krista.
And stay tuned, because we'll be back with more RVNTV. Thanks for joining.